But Anupam, I really want to talk to you. Anupam is from Yuva Halla Bol, and padhai kamai or dawai. That's been your central slogan of your entire fights that you've been having, and your entire uh, uh, movement. Uh, Tell us what are your expectations, because you're talking about job creation. Job creation is extremely important if we have to see growth going forward. What are your expectations
Right.
from this year's budget as far as job creation is concerned? Are you expecting anything great happening?
So, Aditi, when we talk of the common people, I think today price rise and lack of jobs are the two biggest pain areas for the middle class, so to say, or the common citizenry. And I'm not an economist, but I have heard various economists say this, that inflation and unemployment are inversely correlated in some ways. So I don't know much about that aspect, but if it is inversely correlated, and I see that there is price rise, there is inflation, and at the same time there is record unemployment in the country. So every data suggests the same, from CMI to periodic labor force surveys to even the NCRB data, which shows the data for suicide due to unemployment, which is quite worrying. So I think uh, the two most serious issues which the government should take into consideration for this union budget are obviously the price rise and the unemployment aspect. So we have been working on this issue for quite some time now through Yuva Halla Bol. And I can say this with some authority, that unemployment has actually become a ticking time bomb in the country today. It can explode anytime. And recently, last year, we saw various protests, be it against the Agnipath scheme, or for railway recruitment jobs, or various teacher recruitment agitations, protests across the country, which I have continuously been saying that they are actually vent through which the accumulated anger uh, reflects, or it manifests in a way. Those protests are not just about those particular issues, but it is about the larger general anger about lack of jobs. So I think it is a very serious issue. The government needs to acknowledge that unemployment has become a question of life and death for a huge chunk of at least the unemployed youth. And there
Yeah.
is data to substantiate it. There are real life stories which show that it is happening. So if the government is serious, and I actually do not have much hope from this government when it comes to unemployment, truly speaking, I cannot talk like an academic or an economist, but I have been saying this for the last 3 4 years. The problem with this government lies with the acknowledgement part. This government is not ready to acknowledge that we are in a serious crisis. So you start finding solutions only after you acknowledge that there is a problem. So there is a problem, and I think if the government is serious, what the government should do is to address this issue. So some of the things which I think the government can do through this through the union budget is: one, for the public sector jobs, for which we have seen these recent protests, or I've seen some media report which have reported these protests like job riots. So when
Right.
these railway recruitment protests happened last year. So one thing is to ensure that at least the vacant posts which are sanctioned. So I'm not getting into the aspect of whether the sanction strength is optimum or not. We have an understanding that the sanction strength in for public sector jobs in India is already low. There is a debate. A lot of people say this, that nahi sarkari naukri kitna ho sakta hai, kya ho sakta hai. But when you start comparing India with other other countries, and whatever ideological bent of economy that country might be following, I don't think there are many countries in the world where where the public sector job share is not even 4% of the total employment. So even in that, there are lakhs of posts which are lying vacant, which are sanctioned. So the first point is, I think the sanction strength needs to go up. So for various sectors, from police to teachers to healthcare to the padhai kamai dawai thing which you said. So I think the government needs to invest more. The government needs to take care of these sectors. And when it starts doing this, then naturally
There is there is
jobs.
there is a certain viewer who wants me to add to this statement. He's writing in and he's saying that there is not much of unemployment because of lack of jobs, but it is because of lack of skills. He says 175,000 jobs are vacant in the government sector because of lack of skills.
So
And he
so
was
I
insisting that I bring that up, and so I'm bringing it up right now to you.
so I keep facing this question in our movement, and we have Professor Santosh Mehrotra on our panel who has worked, who has actually studied a lot on this subject. So politically, तो मैं इसको ऐसे जवाब देता हूँ कि अगर मान भी लेते हैं lack of skills है, तो इंडिया में lack of skills है, तो उसकी उसका someone has to be held accountable. वो जापान सरकार की
Hmm.
जिम्मेदारी नहीं है. लेकिन
Hmm.
उसका एक फिर डिटेल्ड उसका एक आंसर है कि आप देखिए, एक तो वन एस्पेक्ट इज द पब्लिक सेक्टर जॉब्स व्हिच आई थिंक द गवर्नमेंट नीड्स टू ensure that these posts are advertised and recruitment is done in a time bound manner. So one very serious pain area has been that these recruitments linger on for years and years. So
Hmm.
before 2019 parliamentary elections, you must be remembering the the Modi government announced that 4 lakh jobs will be given only through railways over the next 2 years. And then there was this huge campaign, bumper bharti, mega bharti, दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी भर्ती चुनाव के समय में. So this was in February 2019, and that recruitment has not yet been complete. So we are almost nearing 4 years of that advertisement. और रेलवे के वो जो पोस्ट जो एडवर्टाइज हुए थे 2019 से पहले, वो 2024 से पहले पूरे होंगे. पंचवर्षीय योजना बना दिया है इन्होंने पूरे रिक्रूटमेंट प्रोसेस को. सो आई कीप सेइंग दिस दैट दिस नीड्स टू बी टाइम बाउंड. One, the other aspect is that there has to be some guarantee of jobs at least on minimum wage, not only for the rural aspect, but there has to be some guarantee on for minimum wage. I come from Bihar, and in Bihar and parts of UP Purvanchal, a huge chunk of people actually travel for hundreds of kilometers to work, to stand at some labor chalk in a city in the morning. So I think this is a huge failure of the state if this is happening in our country, कि सैकड़ों किलोमीटर दूर लोग जाते हैं और ठेला चलाने के लिए, बोझा ढोने के लिए. तो this needs to be addressed. So these are some things
Absolutely.
which, yeah.
Absolutely. This needs to be addressed in a country of 1.4 billion. Obviously, it's difficult, but not if the political will is there,
So
obviously. And
we are talking about a government which came with a promise of giving 2 crore jobs annually. So I know
right.
it is obviously difficult, but we are talking of a government which has such a majority. If this government can't do this, then no government can do it.
Right.